Can I just ask you something about the way you see technology going? People are worried about artificial intelligence. I mean, Professor Stephen Hawking has said it's the end of humanity. Are you worried that in 30 years' time we'll be looking back at this moment and saying we didn't do enough to protect ourselves?
Well, that's it's not likely in 30 years that we'd be facing anything like that. The fact that machines are becoming better, today it takes 2% of the US population to grow all the food, it does tend to free us up to do other things. And we have so many unmet needs, whether it's taking care of old people, handicapped people, reducing class size, doing better education. And so what these advances should do is have us say, hey, if labor was free, what great things would we do? And if even then you can't come up with ideas, yes, the work week will be shorter. We'll have more leisure time. Eventually, those great things will happen, and I see it as a positive thing.
The tech revolution, to some extent, seems to be one of the agents of this assault on globalization, because the tech revolution brought globalization into being and certainly helped it enormously. But now there's a sort of alienated, very large group of people. They elected Donald Trump in large measure. They voted for Brexit in this country. Do you actually see an assault on globalization underway and a rise of populism which might set a lot of your work back?
Well, certainly in democratic systems, the pendulum will swing for global trade, for immigration, and swing against it. And that it's a self-correcting system where people are listening to the voters, understanding their concerns.
But it seems a big jolt.
No, but it overall, the idea that China's getting richer and there's more scientists all over the world, and the fact that if somebody cures cancer, you're not going to worry what country that comes from, that's a really, really good thing. The fact that there's more rights, that we're thinking more about women, that gay people's rights are improved. There is an overall trend. It's not without its wiggles, where people saying, hey, have we gone too far? What about me? And that's okay. Democracy isn't going to give you a straight path in any direction. And so now we should all be looking at, okay, maybe what they're complaining about isn't the right thing, but why are they unhappy at all? What is it that we need to reprioritize on their behalf?
Now, we're just going into an election. You in your election experienced, we think, Russian interference in some of what was going on. Fake news has made an appearance on the stage on a scale that we never dreamt possible. Are you concerned about fake news? Are you concerned about alien individuals trying to upset people's democratic processes?
Those are things to guard against. I don't think the French election or UK election will be determined by those outside forces, but we should try and make sure that that's not happening in the future. The whole idea of how you run elections and how you raise money for elections, how you make sure the voting system's working well. It's an area for constant diligence because it plays such a central role in our democratic process.
But you take something like, for example, that there was this flash on the web, on various social media sites, that Pope Francis had backed President Trump. I mean, in his original run for the presidency. I mean, it absolutely wasn't true, but it became a fact for a time. How do you deal with that?
Well, people are going to have taste in terms of paying attention to reliable news sources. And the fact that we're getting a lot of our news off the internet, it's kind of a new thing.
Most young people get all their news from the internet.
That's right. But they get some of it from reliable sources and some from unreliable sources. And I do believe they'll become more sophisticated over time. And we have to hope they'll even look at news that has viewpoints they disagree with. We don't want them off just listening to the people they already share common views with.
But you've basked in this freedom, and suddenly we're having to think about, well, is it censorship? Somehow people are going to have to combat, specifically, prevent some of this fake news and the rest of it.
It's true. Along with this idea that anybody can publish, which is an overwhelmingly good thing. It's not just a few, press barons controlling what we read now. Along with that freedom has come this idea that there's a lot of incorrect information out there. And so the idea of who do we trust? Do we see who our friends trust? Thinking of it all as credible as what we used to read in the newspaper, that's not working.
Now, what about Donald Trump? I mean, you've met him, you know him. I don't know whether you knew him before, but he does not seem to be as favorably disposed to overseas aid as Mr. Obama was.
Well, the biggest increase in U.S. aid took place under President Bush. We had a big increase because the HIV medicines got out, huge initiative, malaria. Obama maintained those levels, and I'm hopeful the new administration will do the same. They're new. It's a chance to have them go out to Africa, see what's going on. In our system, the Congress has the final say on the budget, and a lot of them have been over to Africa. And so I'm fairly confident that we won't see a big budget increase, although in the beginning, this sort of idea of America First meant that once again we had to go and say, even though it's far away, that is helping humanity. It helps us see any pandemic diseases early and stop it there before it gets to us. A lot of different benefits that once people spend time on it, I think they understand why it's a priority.
But the early talk was cuts of perhaps 25% in the budget.
That's right.
Do you think has gone away or not?
I think that there's no chance it'll be that severe. But as usual, reminding people, why they should feel good about these things. In every country, that's critical. I wish more people could go and see it. Then we wouldn't have this issue at all.
Well, why don't you take Mr. Trump? I mean, I'm sure he'd love to go with you.
Well, at some point that may make sense. It would be great. A lot of senators and congressmen have gone with either myself or my wife, and they come away quite changed.
Have you actually spoken to President Trump? I think you met him.
That's right. I had a long meeting with him after he was elected. That was the first time we met. Then last month in the White House, I had another good meeting with him. And so,
Good meeting?
Oh yeah, sharing my views about where research can go, whether it's education or energy or health, the importance of foreign aid. I get out there on the front lines. I get to see some things, and so
you found him responsive?
Yeah, I think he's learning, and on a lot of issues, he's quite pragmatic. And his team is getting up to speed. People like Secretary Tillerson are very smart people, Secretary Mattis, and so I think the uncertainty about the policies will go down. A year from now, we'll have a clear view, and I hope to have influenced that in a positive way.
I detect nothing has undermined your optimism.
No, whenever you have a new team elected, the idea of, okay, they're going to do some things you're going to like, some things you're not going to like, that's always there. We had that in the U.S., and, it's a chance to explain issues like aid and why I think it's worth keeping as a priority.
You have been worried about whether the British will resile from the 0.7%. Have you got any reassurance that they won't?
Well, it's certainly up to the parties and the voters. The key thing that I bring to the discussion is simply that I've had a chance to see how impactful it is. And so as they weigh their budget priorities, they should know that aid is having a phenomenal effect, whether it's malaria, neglected diseases, overall childhood death. Our foundation has ended up partnering with DFID to go out and keep improving those programs and making sure that we're saving lives for very, very little money.